Do you take the literal definition that Japanese people use of anime, that every single cartoon is an anime? And if you don't, where is the delineation? Do you think that anime is simply any story from anywhere in the world animated by Japanese people? Or do you think that anime is stories created in Japan by Japanese people and then also produced by them? When you hear anime, you think Japanese animated media. But then again, that's where the semantics comes in, right? If it's Japanese animated media, then that would make Batman an anime. That would make X-Men 97 an anime. That would make this new Lord of the Rings an anime, because they are Japanese animated. What is your definition of anime? I just like hearing everybody's theories about it, because it's just like, it's a weird conversation to me, you know? So I made a tweet saying, crazy seeing the anti-anime, right-leaning people doing the I told you anime sucks laps over the new Lord of the Rings animation. Should I be glad that all of your comics, cape shit, and nerd movies, etc. got co-opted and destroyed because I don't personally like them? I just think it's a little crazy. I've seen a couple of people talking about how, like, of course this is bad, it's anime, and all anime is bad. And Savvy responded, apparently it's not even animated in Japan. You saw someone saying it was only a Japanese director. Everything else is Western, unsure though. And I was like, yeah, that's correct. The director is Kenji Kamiyama, who worked on Ghost in the Shell, but the animation is done in-house at Warner Brothers. And I was later corrected about it being in-house. She said the writing is all Western too, so he did the best that he could with the material, but ultimately it's still USA trying to have a cheap imitation, not understanding why anime is so wonderful. Now this person, Devil-Eyed Elvis, I'm not sure who they are, but they say, half of my job is in the entertainment space. From what I can gather, this is largely a Western production and described as more of a consultant role for the director. Some bullet points and input was given, but mostly getting a bag in exchange for using the name. Animation is outside my usual scope, but this was how it was explained to me when I asked. And this guy, Clark Nova, he makes anime for Warner Discovery. He co-created Toonami, producer, The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, Ninja Kamui, Scavenger's Reign, and more. So he's actually involved in the project. And he said, this is incredibly untrue, and whoever you asked was full of shit. And it's incredibly disrespectful to the director. And then the original Devil-Eyed guy said, from looking at your bio, probably people you've worked with before, I'd imagine. And then the guy working on the Lord of the Rings new animation says, I don't believe you, no reason I should. And the original guy says, Lamau, okay, bud. He doesn't make anime, he makes cartoons. And this is where I was like, this is interesting. He responded to me by quote retweeting. He said, incorrect, the entire War of the Rohirrim film was animated in Japan. Full Japanese staff with several different anime studios involved. It is, in fact, or in point of fact, anime. I said this a couple of years ago, by the way, and people just forgot and are saying the same thing. And then, down here, somebody said, can we know the names of the anime studios involved? And he said, there's a bunch, they will all be listed in the credits, but I can't say who until the film is out. And since I read more context than just his one tweet replying to me, my response was, the only info available on the wiki lists Warner Brother Animation, so I will stand corrected if you state that multiple JP studios will be doing the animation, and you just can't release that info yet. When I say this, I'm saying, if when it comes out, it is proven that there are Japanese animation studios, yes, I will have been wrong saying it was animated in-house at Warner Brothers. However, in my opinion, that would still not make it anime, as the IP and story being told is not a Japanese one, but a Western one. Batman, the animated series, was outsourced to JP Studios and is not considered an anime. X-Men 97 is not considered an anime. This could just be an argument in semantics, and my initial point was that people wanted to criticize the show for merely being anime/JP influenced. And then he did respond again. Here we go. He said, I literally did just state that, which I guess I wasn't trying to be like super argumentative here, which is why I said I will stand corrected if you state that multiple JP studios will be doing the animation and you can't release that info yet, which is what he said. But I have no proof that that is true because it hasn't been released yet. Like I said, I literally did just state that. See the movie and watch the credits if you want to be proven wrong in real time. And that is how everyone should want to be proven wrong. Don't just blindly believe things. See for yourself. And your opinion about it not being anime is your opinion, and you are welcome to it. The Japanese staff certainly thinks they are making an anime. And this goes into the word anime with a literal translation just means animation, which is how many years ago we got the joke that King of the Hill is an anime, and thus it is my favorite anime. So, the Japanese using the word anime to mean animation doesn't give it credence to being anime as the medium, as it were, right? Sorry, bro, using Japanese labor doesn't magically make your woke shit anime. And then somebody else pointed out up here, actually one of the production companies listed in the wiki is Sola Entertainment, which is based in Japan. And they brought up this, but what this person left out, because I responded to them and I was like, okay, I do stand corrected if they already have one Japanese studio listed here. That means it isn't all in-house. And Shitako said, Sola Entertainment has an office in LA. While there is no Sola Entertainment LinkedIn page, there is one for Sola Digital, where they have staff listed to be living in LA and an 8-person team under her. They have a Tokyo office and a Los Angeles office. And this is the person who is the director of the Los Angeles office. So it doesn't really seem... It doesn't... like, I'm definitely wrong about it being animated in-house by Warner Brothers, for sure. But getting into the semantic argument of anime, do you take the literal definition that Japanese people use of anime, that every single cartoon is an anime? And if you don't, where is the delineation, right? Because it gets into... Do you think that anime is simply any story from anywhere in the world animated by Japanese people? Or do you think that anime is stories created in Japan by Japanese people and then also produced by them? You'd call this Western anime? Like, I would call Batman and X-Men definitely anime influenced. In fact, there's even articles talking about the massive amount of influence anime has had both on the original X-Men 97 and the new one coming out. Warner Bros. Did murder their in-house animators and sold their corpses, Jesus. Amerime. Teen Titans was more influence, you would say, and Avatar: The Last Airbender? Yeah. Spaghetti Western, wasabi, cape shit. Maybe, just maybe, Japanese and English are different languages where words can mean different things. Yeah, like, anime is obviously a loan word from the Japanese language that we use. But when someone says anime, right, and this is how communication works, when someone says anime, they don't think about Batman, they don't think about X-Men, they don't think about all of these Western IPs that have outsourced animation to either Japan or Korea. They think of Naruto, or... I almost said fucking Bible Black, holy shit. I mean, technically. They think of Naruto, or like... Trigun, or Cowboy Bebop, or Samurai Champloo. You know, like something most normies even would think of, like, these very popular large IPs. Not My Hero Academia as another one, Full Metal Alchemist. Like, there are specific things you think of when someone says the word anime. When you hear anime, you think Japanese animated media. But then again, that's where the semantics comes in, right? If it's Japanese animated media, then that would make Batman an anime. That would make X-Men 97 an anime. That would make this new Lord of the Rings an anime, because they are Japanese animated. So I guess that would be, again, once where the semantics comes in, what is your definition of anime? Is it merely to be animated by Japanese people in a specific style, or is it stories created and produced by the Japanese themselves? You would not say Japanese animated media unless it's in Japan and is telling a traditional story from the Japanese perspective. Wokie's desperately trying to identify as anime now. I know, it's hilarious. Japanese stories animated by the Japanese. That is the working definition that I use as anime. Which is why when someone says Lord of the Rings isn't anime, or is anime, I'm like, no, it's not, because Lord of the Rings was not created in Japan. There's the whole actual cultural divide between cartoons and anime, and the fact that a lot of cartoons later inspired anime simply because it was out first. Would you call early black and white Astro Boy anime or a cartoon because it is copying the American style of cartoons? Also based Bible Black reference. I feel like there's a lot of American cartoons that have been influenced by anime. Again, the article I read about the X-Men 97 influence from anime, even the original creator is incredibly excited to see how much influence anime has had on the new season. Like, they're all incredibly happy with it. Is an anime still an anime if the light novel it was based on wasn't written by Japanese? You see, this is where it gets difficult, right? Because it seems like it is merely a semantic argument based on what your personal opinion of what anime is. There is no, like, fully agreed upon definition, which makes it a difficult, like, argument to have, right? And then you can have someone like this guy come in and use the literal translation of anime to mean animation. And so the Japanese staff certainly thinks they're making an anime. Well, of course they do, because they're working on an animation, and that's what anime is to them. Crunchyroll tried to push High Guardian Spice as an anime on a purely anime streaming site. Get weird crossovers where they gave permission for anime studios to make stories and shorts with a number of IPs. Halo Legends, Batman, the new Harley Quinn isekai. Yeah, people brought those up in the thread as well, which is what got me thinking, right? Like, how would you even nail down that definition at this point? Tolkien would be proud of these semantic fisticuffs. It's an interesting conundrum to me as someone who has always operated on one definition of anime. It never occurred to me that people would look at the, like, King of the Hill is my favorite anime joke and take it actually literally, right? Not to mention, what do you call a live-action movie that was inspired by an anime? Inception is based off of an anime, and the director has admitted that a anime also inspired him to make it same with the Black Swan. I don't know. I mean, the live action is definitely different from anime, though, obviously. That would just be inspired by, would it not? That means Kirsche isn't an anime woman, she's a cartoon woman. And you think it's an easy as differentiating anime, manga, and manhwa, Korean? They don't usually call these things the same things. Yeah, that's true. Like, for me personally, I would say an anime is something created in Japan by the Japanese and also produced by them, right? Like, again, when you say anime, people think of very specific things. So it seems a little weird to, like, apply it to things that don't fit inside that mold. But, like, again, it could just be semantics and I could just be brain damaged. It's an interesting conversation. I think it would be fun to argue this kind of semantics with other people. Evil Mandrake, thank you for the 5. Studio Ghibli movies are often adaptations of Western novels. Are they anime? I would say probably not, no. They don't even use, like, the same, like, animation that you would think of when you look at an anime, would you? Well, the Garo animes are not typical anime style, even though they're built with anime parts. Anime is very specific to the Japanese. It's animation because they are in Japan. Yeah. You don't know, you'd be okay calling Avatar The Last Airbender an anime despite who made it? I don't think I would. Like, I wouldn't call Code Lyoko an anime. Now, they're doing this on purpose of Trojan horsing into Japan and taking control of the supposed modern audience by skin suiting? I mean, I don't know, man. If it doesn't say Kono Bangumi wa grand sponsor at the beginning of the show, it's not anime! Aided Clock, thank you for the 5. Does sub or dub change the anime to cartoon? Does language count? Absolutely not. If it's Western but drawn in anime style, you'll label it in your collection, even if you don't consider it anime. Shadow Cyber Demon, thank you for the 5 Canadians. The old stop-motion Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was animated in Japan. Don't consider it an anime. Well, I mean, I wouldn't consider that one an anime either. Also, I loved the animation in that one. I didn't know that was animated in Japan. If the Spider-Man Octopus Girl manga got an anime, would it still be anime because its manga is Japanese, or not because the original IP isn't? Well, it's not manga, right? I'm kind of confused at your sentence, because you said if Spider-Man Octopus Girl manga got an anime, would it still be anime because its manga is Japanese or not? Because that's an IP loan, isn't it? So I wouldn't consider it that. Ideally, it's both. Maybe I'm just an anime purist, you know? Main reason, money. What about the new Suicide Squad isekai? I would not... Oh, man. I'd probably call it, like, they made an anime off of a Western IP, but it's still bad because the material wasn't good. There's an actual Wolverine anime. You just forgot what Japanese studio did it, though. Like, see what I'm saying, though? Like, this semantic discussion is, like, a difficult one to have, right? Let's pretend it doesn't exist. A fun fact, no, it wouldn't be an anime because there's a Japanese manga of Spider-Man complete with mecha and such, so while the manga is a manga, it's still a comic book hero. Can make anime adaptations of Western IPs. Yeah, like, it would be an anime adaptation of a Western IP. That would make more sense to call it that. So, like... But when it's an anime adaptation, we're still working on the logic that it's a Japanese studio and Japanese people who are animating it for themselves, right? That would still be, like, different from Warner Brothers outsourcing to Japanese studios to make animations for them, would it not? I don't know. This is just like, this is like crazy semantics. Edge Runners is a better example because it's really good, but it's a Western IP. Your brain hurts, yeah. You always considered anime anything looking like the anime style? Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I've never put this much thought into what anime actually is before. Because, like, someone says it, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I know what that is. It's not Western. Mildly OCD, thank you for the 10. Anime stems from Japan having trouble pronouncing animation. Mentally, you just say it if it looks anime, but you can also just say Western anime, and the argument stops existing. That's true. That's true and real. Aerolite, thank you for the 10. The interesting thing to me when these semantic discussions come up is figuring out why the distinction is important. The term anime is valuable to claim here because it legitimizes the end product. I mean, I agree. It is figuring out why the distinction is important, but where do you draw the line in the distinction? Right? Because like we just said, if there's a Western IP that gets an anime adaptation, people who are making Western IPs from a story that they wrote in the West as a Westerner, they can just hire a Japanese animation studio. Can they then call that anime? If they're merely hiring a studio in Japan to do their work as opposed to Japanese people making an anime adaptation of a Western IP? Like, that just seems like incredibly, like, how would you decide? No one says Western anime because no one wants to even talk about those IPs. True! It's obvious Warner is trying to fifth column anime. There's your link. They aren't sincere, just trying to gain power. I mean, it's very possible. It's very possible. Evangelion isn't based on any manga or anything like that. It's completely original. Not every anime comes from a manga, right? Some people just make a story and make an anime, right? But it's still made in Japan by the Japanese. There's an anime of the Powerpuff Girls called Power Girl Z. Oh, anime adaptation. To your mind, anime is a style, a distinctive style in art and storytelling, but still a style. So you would say, like, in your opinion, any story from anywhere in the world that uses the anime style would be an anime. How about vice versa? A Japanese writer hires a Western studio to animate their story? I'd probably just call that an animation, right? Like a cartoon. Potato Radio, thank you for the 14-month resub. Remember, before Japanimation, Rocky and Bullwinkle was called Meximation in the 1960s. No hate, just shorthand. No, that makes sense. Sparky, thank you for the 20R. You see anime as endemic to Japan. You can borrow the aesthetic and even some IPs, but you only count that as anime adjacent. Examples are like Teen Titans, Avatar: The Last Airbender. The difference is noticeable. Look at the X-Men anime. Yeah, and I mean, I think it's perfectly fine to be inspired by anime, right? I'm not trying to, like, say they can't. I'm not trying to say, like, you can't merge them. But it's like, maybe this is the autist in me, but I like words having a definition. I think anime's meaning has changed due to the popularity increase, so now anime is just a specific art style? Maybe. This is why many anime websites have added the caveat that anime has to have a JP first release, or within days, as a part of the anime category. That's an interesting caveat. So they figured out an answer to the semantic conversation. You wouldn't look at what Disney makes and go, oh, this is anime because it's Steamboat Willie. So why would you look at Neon Genesis and go, this is a cartoon? If the basis is of the material is from Japan, you would call it anime because it's culturally from Japan. Just like a Western show would be a cartoon simply because what the basis is. So yeah, even Japan Batman, unless he's in Tokyo and being based off of that, is a cartoon. Same with Japanese Spider-Man, and he isn't Peter Parker. Was Neon Genesis animated in the West? I don't understand that sentence. The funny thing about that, you've never seen a minute of Ruby, but every other Korean VR sees those characters as literally me for real. What? No? Okay, I might have just misread that one sentence. I might have just confused myself. I might have just confused myself trying to read that. H.P. Lovecraft's Cat, they give the £5. Is it anime? If the studio is commissioned outside to make it, the answer is no. If the studio's licensed or commissioned it, the answer is yes. Seems like a pretty easy answer. DRT is king, thank you for the 20. The Japanese exclusive Transformers shows, Headmaster, Super God, Master Force, Victory, are those anime? There's no influence from Hasbro, but is it anime? The destination is, in your opinion, a small test, but not a hard definition. Well, it's like, I don't know. It's not something I've ever needed to think of or ever really put thought into. So it's just been waiting around in my head for the past 24 hours, you know? Fun fact, Teen Titans had both English and Japanese dub for its opening. I remember that. And depending on the nature of the episode, they would play either one for normal or more serious episodes, English, and for more one-shot and comedic, Japanese. I liked the original Teen Titans. It's probably one of the only cape things I ever actually watched. Spider-Man Octopus Girl is set in Japan by a Japanese author. You'd say there's no discussion that if animation is from Japan by Japanese and about Japanese realities, can be considered anime. If an IP is not from Japan, but is still done in Japan by the Japanese, we can still call it anime. But if it's done outside Japan, but looks like anime, it wouldn't qualify as one, but merely influenced by it. I mean, maybe. Your power temporarily went out. Oh no, welcome back. Insolent, they give the 5 Canadians. Hanna-Barbera used Japanese studios for Western properties like Scooby-Doo. Animation is just animation. Just enjoy it or not. Yeah. You like to think it's anime if it's made in Japan for the Japanese market. And like I said, that was always the definition that I worked off of, right? Like, was it made in Japan? If yes, then continue. Was it produced by the Japanese? Was it created as a Japanese IP? Was it released in Japan? If yes, it's anime. I don't know. Can you just call the Japanese embassy and ask them? I think the best example for you there is a vibe to it that hits. For example, Edge Runner, cyberpunk western story animated in Japan, but it felt more anime. Castlevania is a Japanese animation source material in Japanese, but has a western feel to it, being a Netflix series. Some of the changes that had been made. Well, like I said, it's I don't think there's any, like, going to be a concrete answer, because it just feels like such a semantic thing. Lots of JP anime have outsourced to CN until approximately 3 years ago when anime got mainstream. CN marketed their own and stopped accepting the outsourcing. Yeah, they outsourced to Korean studios sometimes as well. Castlevania felt seriously Western, despite the style. Anime is a non-technical term derivated for convenience to the people using the term to differentiate between the look and storytelling of animated cartoons. You're trying to twist it into a technical definition. You're doing that somewhat arbitrarily. I have a seance with the ghost of Shinzo Abe. True. True and real. Just use the court's definition of porn. I know it when I see it. Oh my god. Castlevania anime sucks and you won't hear otherwise. It's always funny when you ask Japanese people for their favorite anime and they respond with Mickey Mouse. You know, like I said, in Japan, anime is literally just animation as a literal translation. And that's how they use it. That's why the King of the Hill joke happened. If it's made in Japan, it's anime. Otherwise, it's sparkling cartoons. Feels a little like trying to define what art is. Yeah, it just seems like there wouldn't be a concrete answer for it. And it's, I don't know. I just felt like that was interesting. An interesting conversation to have. If they call any animation anime in Japan, then it doesn't really matter that all of us out of Japan are arguing definitions. Well, we use the word anime to refer to a specific type of animated cartoon, as opposed to Japan just using it for every cartoon, right? Like, in the West, anime has become synonymous with a specific type of animation. But then once you use it in that way, you have to think of, like, well, where do you draw the line, right? Where do you draw the line? Help her! English loanword. We are speaking English and not Japanese. Yeah, exactly. The real question is, Cory in the house and anime? Well, that's live action, you stinky! Consider film noir as truly filmed from a time and place. Goddard's French Alphaville or Blade Runner aren't truly noir. That makes sense. That makes sense. Good question. Next question! Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to insert that question into your skull so you can be tormented, just like I am. If it's a JP production, it's anime. Simple enough rule. Zantetsu13, thank you for the 2,500 CRCs. Anime can be defined as the art style derived from adapting manga to animation. Well, then what about the anime that don't have a manga? They just started as an anime in and of itself. Given the King of the Hill logic of being called an anime, that means Fritz the Cat is also an anime. King of the Hill isn't an anime, with the way we use the word anime as a loan word in English. The joke was that it is an anime because in Japan, anime is just animation. And so the Japanese call everything anime because that is the definition of the word in Japanese. We're looping. Sometimes we have to loop for those in the back. Sparky, thank you for the 5R. The definition wasn't necessary until gatekeeping became a necessity. Also potentially true. Also potentially true. When we were just weird niche nerds yelling strange shit, nobody cared. Mr. Boy-sama, thank you for the 300 biddies. Anime is Japanese stories told by mainly culturally Japanese people. Most of the time, Japanese stories are vetted by the process of a competitive entertainment industry, with many people making many stories, with only the most entertaining ones getting adapted. When a Western company just pays for the animation, it lacks the process of vetting in the culturally Japanese perspective. So such stories are anime-styled shows, but not anime. Interesting. Interesting. Watch the JP dub with EN subtitles for King of the Hill. Then let's talk! You'll now sleep while listening to me. Good luck. Good luck. Bobby Kuhn. A propane besto desu kuai. Here's the big problem for a lot of people calling it anime or not anime is a moral judgment. People want to be able to fudge it so they can include shit like as anime and shit they don't like as not anime or vice versa. Oh, so it's the lolly argument all over again. It's a loosely defined term that everyone will define uniquely, but where we have a lot of overlap. Des. Back up, Stash. Thank you for the member. Thank you. What about Korean animation? I know Korean manga is called manhwa. That's what, or I guess Korean comics, I don't know. Korean comics are called manhwa, so they have a different word as opposed to manga. But I don't know what Korean animations are called. I don't know what their equivalent to anime is, or if they even have a word for it. Just Korean animation. It's funny because the same people who said they hate lolly, but like Rebecca from Cyberpunk, will say that she's not a lolly. That was exactly what I just said a few minutes ago. There's also Korean anime, like Magical Index. Hank's half-brother's Japanese, so King of the Hill is anime! The Chinese have manhua? Is it... I don't know how to pronounce the Chinese manhua differently from manhua in Korea. If you can put it on my anime list, I'll count it as an anime! You love Hank Hill's stand propane madness? Oh my god. They're all the same word, actually, just different pronunciation in different languages. Drama eclipsed everything media-wise in Korea. Dude, K-drama is a huge fucking circuit. Oh, they're huge. It's only really necessary now that Western animation has failed on its own merits and now have to learn or lean on the good reputation of Japanese animations to sell their product instead of the reputation of Western animations, which was once pretty good. Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Like, there's definitely people who it is in their best interest to muddy the waters and try to poke holes in what anime really is. Especially coming from people that may have denounced things that came from Japan for many years. Like we saw with games journalists and how they would dog on JRPGs, right? And just like what postmodern art is, saturation, a mockery of what modern art. Monday Loons, thank you for the 5. You just hate the militant discussion of what's anime as if cartoons are something lesser and shouldn't be associated. I wouldn't say it's that militant, right? And I feel like there are, you know, the men who were tired of being called man children for liking comics and adult cartoons, but then they just turn around and do the same thing to anime. It's just like, that's a little weird. That's a little strange. I don't know why you'd do that. I guess which animation industry is filled with CalArts, and which one isn't CalArts hate? The only CalArts show I ever watched was Gumball, and I will give Gumball credit because they pumped out a ridiculous fucking amount of episodes. But they used a lot of different art mediums in their show.